Jesus more.
My dear brothers and sisters, throughout the Gospels, the first three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, we hear a lot about the quarrels and the disagreements that Jesus has with the scribes and the Pharisees. And when they have encounters with him, when they question his attitude, when they question his way of life, when they question the way of life of his apostles, and he tries to respond to them. But something happens today in the gospel that is different, because Jesus starts by praising them and saying, yeah, truly these people have been given the seeds of Moses. They have really important role to play in their lives. But he says something different added to that you must observe whatever thing they teach you, but do not follow their example. And I think the teaching that Jesus talks about, that gives us this morning, because he goes a long way to talk about don't call anybody the rabbi, don't call anybody father, don't call anybody master, because you have only one teacher, you have only one father, you have only one master. So don't call me father, you don't call Father Anish father, you don't call Father Jerry father, don't call your parents father. Is that what he's saying? And I think Jesus is bringing us to a deeper truth. And what is this? He says that we must pay our attention and fix our minds on God and God alone. It is true the Pharisees have been given these seats. It is true they have this authority. It is true they have received this tradition from their forefathers. But then they are not meant to be the center. And that is not only for the time of the Pharisees, because we could listen to this and leave it back there and say, anyway, we did not live in the time of the Pharisees. I think it's something that is applicable for us today, that as Catholics, as Christians, we must not fix our minds on the pastors. It's important to listen to what we say, but we must not be the model, the ideal for us. We must not be following. Of course, the priest is meant to be an example. Leaders of the church are meant to be an example. And in fact, if we do something wrong, it could be scandalous to the people who follow us. But then you must also remember that you must have your eyes fixed on Jesus and Jesus alone. The letter to the Hebrews that we heard last Sunday from chapter 12 says that we must get rid of all the burden and the sin that clings itself to us, but while keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, who is the leader and the perfecter of our faith. It is not a priest, it is not a leader of the church, it is not a sister who perfects our faith. It is Christ and Christ alone. So all of us are on this journey. The priest, sisters, all of us are on this journey. At times, when I am sharing my reflection like I do this morning, I also listen to myself. Actually, at times, when I preach, I just say, how I wish I can keep what I'm talking about. Because at times, it also challenges me, even what I say. So, do not feel that I'm preaching to you and already I'm there. No. I am actually listening to myself, and in fact, before I preach something to you every morning, I have to make sure it has an impact on me before I give it out. If it does not touch me in any way, then I'm just playing around. And it's so important, therefore, to remember, and I think we are doing that as Catholics in a very big way, that we get priests moving. We have priests and they keep moving around all the time. Get transferred from one place to another, but we still remain. Okay, it doesn't matter the priest that is there, we still remain, we still come to the same church. But think about, especially like other churches or other denominations, where the pastor becomes the focus of everything. Once the pastor moves, or once the pastor dies, it's like the church is going to die. And this is very important, my dear friends, that we do not keep our eyes focused on the pastor, because this has led to a lot of manipulation. This has led to a lot of crises. This has led to a lot of abuses. especially when people trust, especially when people hold on, especially when people are focused on the pastor. It becomes like their God. And it becomes so difficult, especially when that person, even when the person says that, when the pastor of the church says, you do anything, they are bound to do it because they feel like he is a God. I remember in the year 2000 in Uganda, I think I shared about that, when there was a denomination where the pastor said, now we have come to the end of the world, we have to gather here and pray. And people just followed that, and they said, we are going to die. And people followed that, and they burnt themselves alive. And the pastor found a way of escaping, and they all died. All because they were so focused on the word of the pastor, and they forgot about what God is saying himself. Even recently in Kenya, I know of somebody is in prison now. He has a pending case, who was actually starving people to death in the name of that is the only path to paradise. This is what I say is very dangerous. In my own country, we have really pastors who are doing awful things. If you think about it, if you try to see what is happening in the world today in the name of the church, in the name of religion, you realize how awful things are happening. And all is based because people are so focused on the pastor of the church, and they forget about the Lord of the church. This is what Jesus wants us to learn today. This is what Jesus is talking about when he talks about the Pharisees. It's not just about Pharisees, but he says, no, do not consider anybody father. No, it is only one Father. Do not consider anybody as master. There is only one master. Do not consider anybody teacher or rabbi. There is only one teacher and rabbi, and that is Jesus, and Jesus alone. So my dear friends, even as we come to the Eucharist, this must be the focus. It should not be this blackface. It must not be this Father Anish or anything, but it's about Jesus and Jesus alone. And so it doesn't matter who is there. No, it's about the Jesus who is always present to lead us, to guide us, to listen to our needs, and to grant us all his blessings and all graces. So my dear friends, as we go through this Eucharistic celebration, let us ask God for the grace to remain focused on him at all times, to have our eyes fixed on him, and to have faith, hope, and trust in him and him alone.
Kiss us, mother, kiss your children. Bring God's blessings from above. With your mantle blue enfold us in your gentle holy love. See the darkness disappear.